All right, gang. Good morning. Good morning. I love that song. That is such a great song to meditate to and to really get clear about our thoughts and write down our goals and our intentions. So I hope you took those few minutes to do that. It's great to have you here this amazing Monday morning. I hope you had a great weekend. I know that I did. It's great to be back and good to see you. And I'm happy to spend some time with you. So the topic that I want to share with you this morning is a fun one for me. I love it. It's really talking about how to get through challenges. And if you're thinking about really, that's really just how do you get through life? Because life is nothing but a series of challenges. It really is, which I think is a good thing because, gosh, without challenge, there is no growth. But I want to just share this quote with you. I wrote it down. It's your struggle, or rather, you are where you are today because of your struggles, not in spite of them. I want you to think about that. You are where you are today because of your struggles, not in spite of them. And that was Frederick Douglass. It's important. There is no progress where there is no struggle, okay? If you're not struggling, you're not progressing. And I think we all know that if we recognize that at a conscious level. So I want to start with just a few questions for you. I want you to, as we're thinking about this idea of getting through life, which is nothing more than a series of challenges, what past struggles have you endured? I want you to think about just the things that you have had to endure that maybe are unique to you, or maybe not so unique to you, but at least it's your story, what you've had to go through to get where you are today. Because the fact is, where you are today and who you are today has very much been molded by your past struggles. So what past struggles have you endured? I want you to just think about that. Write down a few of the struggles that you have endured. Just take a second to do that. What have been your past struggles? What have you had to endure? And then as you're doing that, and you're thinking about that, think about this. How did they impact you? How did those struggles impact you? How did they help you form your perspective on life and who you've become? And especially, look, because if we're really honest with ourselves, whether it's a month later or 6 months later, or a year later, or a decade later, or decades later, and we look at our past challenges, of course, it always seems to be easier when it's over, right? But looking back on it, I think it's also easier to recognize how it impacted us in a very positive way. How if it weren't for those struggles, we wouldn't be where we are today or enjoying the benefits of those struggles. So how did those struggles impact you? And then here's a great question is, did you grow? Did you grow from those challenges? And of course, the answer is always, yes, of course you did, right? You did. There isn't any challenge that you've experienced where you have not actually experienced growth. The fact is that you did. But the question is not really so much did you grow, but how did you grow? And maybe I guess you could ask, how much did you grow as a result of that? Because there's certainly a lot of challenges that we go through that cause a great amount of growth. So again, just those three questions. I want you to take that. We talked last week, a week ago, this Monday, about journaling and great questions that you can ask. Those would be three great questions that you could ask yourself is, what past struggles did I endure? And how did they impact me? And did I grow? And in which ways did I grow? So just take the time to really have that conversation with yourself. Now, as I introduce you to that, I just want you to, I want to give you a quick list of some challenges that I've endured. Because as much as I asked you to write down your past struggles, as I was, journaling this, I did that. I went through those past challenges. I wrote this down. I was raised in trailers. My dad spent 3 years in the Utah State Penitentiary. No one in my family had graduated from high school prior to my brother and me doing that. My second grade class was a special ed class for most of the year. I flunked out of ninth grade English. I went broke my first 4 years in real estate. And the truth is, gang, I was broke when I started, but I was even more broke after the first 4 years. And then in 2009, I lost everything. I went broke again. And the list goes on and on. I guess my point is that we all face challenges because life is nothing more than a series of challenges. The real question is, Do we recognize that challenge is a good thing? Let me go back to that. Life is nothing more than a series of challenges. But the most important thing is, do we recognize that challenge is a good thing? That but for challenge, we wouldn't be who we are. We wouldn't have the strength that we have, the perspective that we have, the skills that you learn in the process of trying to simply survive. One of the best ways to figure out how to do something is actually to be just thrown into the middle of it, like learning how to swim. How many of you learned how to swim on the deck of the pool or watching a film of somebody else swimming? Of course, the answer is none of you did. We all learned to swim by getting into the pool, by being thrown into the pool. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to recognize these three things this morning and how critical they are to your personal growth and your experience in life and living the life that you want, and ultimately getting through challenges. So number one, I want you to write this down. Write down that we need to recognize that the struggle is necessary. It's not optional, it's necessary. The struggle is really the essence of progress. If you and I expect to make any progress in life, we are going to have to struggle. We can't get better at anything unless we try it. See, where we stand today is different than where we stood yesterday. We stand where we stand today because of the challenges that we faced. And the only way to get to a higher level of performance in anything that we do, whether we're looking at relationships or our physical, mental, or emotional, or spiritual health, or our business, the skill of prospecting, of overcoming objections, of sitting down with somebody and persuading them to choose you versus the competition, whether it's in a listing presentation or a buyer broker presentation, or convincing someone to reduce the price of their listing, or to increase the price that they're going to offer on a home that they're looking at. All of those things require a skill set, right? And struggle. And the only way ultimately to improve those skill sets is to struggle, is to go through the process and try and fail, try and fail, try and fail. But we have to recognize that the struggle is necessary. See, what I believe is, and the reason I started with this particular principle out of the three to recognize that the struggle is necessary, is that so many people, gang, try to avoid the struggle. They do whatever they can to avoid the struggle. See, we all know on a very conscious level, the single most important thing that any of us could do in the business of real estate is to actually talk to people. You know that. As much as you might hate to admit that, you know that. If I could see each one of your eyes and we had that conversation, you would admit the single most important thing that you could do is to actually talk to people consistently in the business of real estate. And yet, most real estate agents will do everything they can to avoid doing that thing. Am I right? Say yes. Somebody in the chat line, tell me that that is correct. That is what most real estate agents do. They work to avoid actually doing the number one thing that will lead to their success. I'm still waiting. Thank you, Trevor. That is correct. It is correct. Thank you, Miriam. We know on a very conscious level what we need to do, and yet we will find all sorts of reasons as to why not to do it. We will try to rationalize it. And yet, if we will simply recognize that life is nothing more than a series of challenges, and it's only through going through challenge that we get better or get what it is that we want, it's a lot easier to actually face challenge. In other words, be honest with yourself that the struggle is necessary. I'll give you just a great example of this. I've shared with you before this example, but I love the story. It's the story of the caterpillar that becomes a chrysalis and struggles to become a butterfly. And I think it's a great metaphor of what we all try to do, that we're born to this world as this defenseless, helpless baby, and we rely upon our parents until we get to a point where we're on our own, and then we have to struggle and learn how to really spread our wings. So there was this little boy who was given the project of watching a caterpillar turn into a chrysalis, that cocoon stage, and then to watch it grow from that to a butterfly. Well, the little boy each day would show up and see the caterpillar, now chrysalis, apparently making progress. But he was concerned because he didn't see any progress. Apparently there was, time was going by, but he didn't see any progress. And so he was concerned that the caterpillar was not growing and was not going to turn into a butterfly. So what he decided to do was to cut open the cocoon so that the butterfly could get out and spread its wings. Well, unfortunately, the next day when he showed up, the butterfly, the half-formed butterfly, had fallen out of the cocoon and was now on the floor. And he wondered why. You know, asked the teacher, what's wrong, what happened? And of course, the answer is that a butterfly only becomes a butterfly when it's allowed to go through the process of being a what's it called? A chrysalis. Thank you, a chrysalis, and struggling to become a butterfly. See, as it transforms from a caterpillar in this chrysalis stage, it begins to form wings, but the wings are not what we know them to be when they are full-grown or adult butterflies. The only way they become full-grown and adult butterflies is through the struggle of trying to get out of that cocoon. It is the struggle of trying to get out of the cocoon that allows this little plump caterpillar that begins to grow wings to pump the fluid from its plump little body into the wings. It is the struggle of trying to open up that chrysalis that forces the fluids in its body into the wings to expand those wings. It's the struggle, gang. I want you to think about that. So just relate to that. Think about your own life on a daily basis. Are you looking to take shortcuts? Are you looking to avoid the struggle? Because what I know is this, through my own personal experience, I look back, the moments of greatest growth in my life are not when I avoided the struggle, it's when I faced the struggle head on, or when I had no choice and it was there. I had to just simply go through it or no longer exist. I want you to think about that. When you wrote down your past struggles, think about the growth that you experienced. So my question for you is this, because I really want you to relate to this on a very practical level. When you look at what you want in real estate, the amount of business that you want, the number of transactions you want to close, the amount of money that you want to earn, the number of listings you want to take, are you willing to face the struggle? Are you every day strategically looking to face those struggles head on, picking up the phone and prospecting, following up with people, having the difficult conversations with people about what they need to do and changing their behavior, reducing the price of the home, willing to increase the price that they're going to offer on an existing listing, but willing to do the hard work? Because it's in those situations that you actually progress, that you spread your wings and you can fly. And we all know that. But I ask you this question on a very conscious level. Are you operating in that fashion? That when the challenge comes up, that instead of looking for ways to get around it or excuses to be made as to why you can't do it today or in this moment, because we all do that, you rather look at it and say, it is only possible for me to live the life that I want, to have the things that I want, by enduring the struggle. Okay, it's interesting. You know, I've always thought it was very fascinating that people would win the lottery. I mean, who wouldn't want to win the lottery? $100 million, $500 million. You see people who've won as much as $500, $600, $700 million. And the fact is that a vast majority of those people over time, within a relative short period of time, end up being broke. Most of them go bankrupt. And the question is why? How is it that these people who have tens of millions or hundreds of $millions, right, could go broke? And of course, the answer is they go broke because they didn't have to struggle to earn the money, to earn those millions, to have what it is that they have. And because they didn't, a couple of things happen. Number one, they don't appreciate it the way you would appreciate it if you actually had to earn it. And you all know what I'm talking about, right? If any of you have kids or grandkids who ask for money, you realize they don't appreciate money because they don't yet have the perspective of what it takes to actually earn a dollar and to keep it, right? But the other issue is with those who go bankrupt is they never learn the skill on what it takes to keep it. But see, gang, if they had to struggle to earn $100 million or $500 million, we would all agree that it would be more likely that they would keep it, that they wouldn't lose it, because they could appreciate what it takes to actually get it, and they actually have the skills to get it. See, the cool thing about actually figuring out how to earn $1 million or $100 million is that once you've done that, if you lose it, it's a lot easier to make it again. So gang, remember, the struggle is absolutely necessary. Are you that person who looks every way that they can, left, right, forward, backwards, on how to get around the challenge, the inevitable challenge? Or are you the person that looks at the challenge and says, you know what? It's by doing this, by engaging in the challenge, facing it head on, despite my fears, despite the struggles, despite that I've never done this before, that I'm going to actually do it and succeed. Because see, that is simply a choice. Do you resist or embrace struggle? It's a really important question. If I were to write that one down, I'd ponder that one and think about it. Think about your past experiences and who you are and how you behave. Are you somebody who resists struggle, or someone who embraces it? The next question is this, or rather the principle is this: recognize that your beliefs are what matter most. Recognize that your beliefs are what matter most. See, what I firmly believe is that we don't give our beliefs enough weight. When we talk about how do you get through struggle, what you believe is most important. Hands down, you won't convince me otherwise. I don't care what challenge you are facing, whether it's a relationship challenge, a health challenge, or a business financial challenge. The single most important thing to help you get through that challenge is to recognize that your beliefs, what's going on up here, is the single most important thing to your ability to get through that thing. Because here's the truth: your beliefs can either become excuses or they can become encouragement. They can either tear you down or build you up. And I believe that most people don't give their beliefs enough weight. In other words, they don't recognize how much their beliefs impact their reality. And the fact is, it is your beliefs ultimately that create your reality. So it's really a great time to assess, man, do I have the right beliefs as it relates to struggle? What it takes to be successful? Your beliefs are either going to hold you back or empower you. A great example of that is just simply how circuses or some zoos will train their elephants. That when the elephant is young, they will tie a rope to the front leg or the rear leg of the elephant, and then attach that rope to a post in the ground. And as the elephant tries to move away from the post to get away from the rope to break free, they can't because they're not strong enough. And they tried enough times, they recognize they're just simply not strong enough to get away from the rope to break free. And so that even though they will grow to a full adult, weighing 10 to 15,000 pounds, who could easily snap that rope or pull that post out of the ground, they don't do it because they don't believe that they can. It is so interesting. I want to ask you this question. What version of you is most capable? And what I mean by that is this: is the version that you bring to today in May 2021 a better version than you brought to May of 2020 or 19 or 18 or 17 or 2000? And the answer unequivocally, gang, is you know what it is. The answer is what? Somebody give me the answer in the chat line. What version is better? A version from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or the version today? And the answer, yes, Trevor, it's now. The person today is the best version. And the question is why? The obvious answer is because of all the struggles that you had to go through to get where you are. You still being here alive on this planet recognizes that, number one, you have succeeded through getting through many challenges. Doesn't mean you don't have any right now, but the fact is you have been through a lot of challenge to get where you are. And getting through that challenge has taught you great lessons. So recognize that your beliefs are what matter most. They are the defining difference between your success and your failure in life. Beliefs can either become excuses or they can become encouragement. They can either disempower or empower. You know, Roger Bannister, when he broke the 4-minute mile, gang, medical doctors, physicists, scientists, the world, reporters said it is not possible to run a 4-minute mile. They said, not possible. Roger Bannister disagreed. He didn't listen to what they said. And despite the fact that at the time, I don't know how many people were on the planet at that point, 5 billion people, 5.5 billion people. Out of 5.5 billion people, Roger Bannister was probably one of the only, if not the only, person on the planet who believed that it was possible. And the cool thing is he proved the world wrong, and he was right. And what is crazy is that over the course of the next 18 to 24 months, there were multiple people who broke the 4-minute mile, including high school students. And now we find that it is a consistent occurrence that and it's no big deal, that we see high school and college students who break the 4-minute mile. It's so interesting that what we believe has a significant, and I believe the most important impact on the life that we live. Do you recognize that? Do you recognize that your beliefs, those internal subconscious beliefs and conscious beliefs, define your reality? You know, the Wright brothers were told consistently that they could not invent the flying machine. In fact, 2 weeks, gang, before they actually took flight at Kitty Hawk, the New York Times published an article that said manned flight was impossible. Man would never invent a flying machine. And there was an asterisk. And if man did, it would take 10 million years for that to occur. Well, that was a quick 10 million years, because 2 weeks later, the Wright brothers took flight at Kitty Hawk. See, gang, here's the thing. The single most important opinion in your life will always be yours. It does not matter what other people think that you're capable of and what you're destined for. The single most important thing that is important is what you think you're capable of and what you're destined for. So I ask you this question. What are your predominating thoughts when it comes to your challenges? Do you believe that you're capable of overcoming them? Do you believe that you have everything within you to address them? Do you look at them and say, these are opportunities to grow? Because that's the defining difference. It's not that you won't have struggle. It's not that some of your struggles won't be harder than the struggles of other people, or that your struggles at times will be easier than other people, because both are true. The real question is, how are you going to respond to the struggles? What will you believe? What will be your messages, your conversation with yourself? Because remember, gang, your beliefs will either be your excuses to avoid doing what you know you should be doing, or they will be encouragement and empowerment to do the things that you know that if you do those things, you'll live the life that you want. You'll have the production that you want. You'll have the income that you want. You'll have the freedom that you want. But it comes down to your beliefs. The single most important thing is not what happens to us, it's how we respond. Are you bringing your best version to your challenges by believing in yourself, believing that if you don't have the answers or the solutions, that you can find them? That believing that even though you may not have the skills necessary to get the best results when it comes to prospecting or when you sit down for a listing conversation, that you will over time learn those skills, that it is through the challenge that you become that skillful, persuasive, productive, successful person. The final point is this. What does it take to get through challenge? It requires that we recognize that we all of us need a compelling reason. I don't care who you are. If you're going to get through significant challenges, you're going to need to have a compelling reason. Because here's the truth, gang. You know this, that I'm asking you to sign up for challenges, not for a problem, not for some event that you didn't control that hits you in the face, that punches you in the face, that gut punches you, because life does that to us sometimes. I'm talking about you saying, no, I see that mountain in front of me and I choose to face that mountain and to climb it. You get to decide whether on a daily basis you're going to get into survival mode or thriving mode. You get to decide whether you are going to be a fighter or a quitter. And what I know is this: those who are most successful in life, whether it's in relationships with their health or in business, the single most important thing that you can look at as it relates to those people is that they have a compelling reason to fight the good fight. That despite the resistance, despite the struggle, despite how difficult it becomes, they have a compelling reason to keep pushing forward. I mean, you look at people, it's unfortunate, especially you look at it over the last 14, 15 months, the rates of suicide have gone up significantly, especially among the youth. Well, people decide to commit suicide because they have given up hope. They have no compelling reason to want to go on. It is critical for our own survival and for our own ability to get beyond the survival mode, to get to a mode of thriving, to living the life that we were destined to live, to reaching our full potential, to having the freedom to do what we want, when we want, with the people that we want to do it with, as often as we want to do. But in order to do that, gang, we have to have a compelling reason. Do you have a compelling reason that despite the challenge, whatever it is, that when you think about that compelling reason, you would actually pay the price? I'll give you just a great example of this, about how important having a compelling reason is. If a building were on fire, and in that building on the top floor was your apartment, and in that apartment was your child's teddy bear. Fortunately, you and your child were not in the building. You were able to get out. But the teddy bear is there. You're in the adjacent building, and there is a plank that runs the distance between the two. It's an 8-inch plank that if you were to walk across that 8-inch plank, walking, let's say, the 24 feet, that you could go into that burning building, into that apartment, and grab that teddy bear for your child. My question for you is, would you do that? And I hope the answer unequivocally is no, because I could go to Walmart and buy a plush for them without risking my own life. But let me ask you this question. If it was your child in that apartment, in that burning building, and you had to walk that plank to rescue your child, would you? And I know, of course, I know the answer. The answer is, of course you would. See, gang, when you have a compelling reason, you will do things that you otherwise ordinarily would not do. You must have a compelling reason. Do you have compelling reasons to live the life that you say that you want, to be your best version, to have the freedom to do what you want, when you want, with the people that you want to, as often as you want to do that? In other words, to have ultimate freedom. There's a gentleman by the name of Eric Weinman. Eric is blind. And what is interesting is that Eric accomplished something that had never been accomplished before as a blind man. In 2001, he successfully summited Mount Everest. That had never been done before by a blind man. In fact, up to that point, only a few thousand people in the history of Homo sapiens, over 198,000 years, almost 200,000 years, was the only blind person in recorded history to summit Mount Everest. Now think about what it would take in terms of a reason to get on top of a mountain that's 29,029 feet, where a high percentage of people who do it die or fail, and do that as a blind man. Why would you do that? Well, I don't know. You would have to ask Eric, but obviously he had a compelling reason. He has such a compelling reason to do things like that, that not only did he do that, but he summited all of the 7 highest peaks in the world as a blind man. He also kayaked or river rafted rather, down the Grand Canyon with another blind individual. Again, I don't know what Eric's compelling reason or reasons are, but what I know is this, that he's compelled. He is absolutely compelled. So the question I have for you is this. When you think about these three things that we've talked about, recognizing, number one, just admitting, embracing it, submitting to it, that struggle is necessary. Then number two, that the single most important thing is not what happens to you, not what challenge are you going to face, but rather what I believe matters most, and ultimately how you respond. And then the final thing is recognizing that you need a compelling reason. Do you believe those things? Are you in alignment with those things? Do you behave that way? Because again, if you don't recognize these things, and you don't try to stay close to these things, recognizing that the struggle is necessary, recognizing your beliefs are the most important thing, and recognizing that you have to have a compelling reason and keep it in front of you all of the time. See, if those things aren't happening, man, your struggles are going to seem a lot more difficult. They're going to seem a lot bigger than they actually are. Each and every one of you is capable of achieving the life that you want, of living the life that you want, of having the relationship that you want, having the health that you want, having the amount of money in the bank that you want, the amount of production that you want in the business of real estate. The question is, are you going to embrace these basic, the rules really of success? Are you recognizing these rules? Now, some of you might say, well, yes. Some of you might say, well, no. Some of you might say, I didn't know that these were the rules. Just figure out where you are and get close to these things and be the person who is more consistently recognizing these things and living consistently by these rules, and watch what will happen. Watch how much easier life will be and how much more successful you will be. It doesn't mean that you won't have struggle, because the fact is that you will. That's not the issue. The question is, do you want to live a higher standard of living? Do you want to exist at a higher plane of consciousness? If you do, then man, recognize these principles and live by these principles. All right, gang, let's finish this up with some closing affirmations. Have a great day. And remember, we're going to have the agent coaching call at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Here we go.